Hey, what's up guys? As you noticed, I'm in a completely different room than my normal bedroom because my roommate likes to play heavy metal really loud conveniently when I want to make videos. I don't have a problem with heavy metal music. I love heavy metal music, but he has just the worst time in the fucking world. So I had to go someplace else so you guys can actually hear me. So today we're going to talk about Trump's Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos. I think it's how you say your name. I don't have anything to look anything up at this time, so this is all ad lib. So Mr. Ruption did a good video showing why people's opposition to her being the Secretary of Education. Peter, you got inside again. How did you say hi to the camera, Kita? She's like, what? Okay, anyway. Mr. Repsion did a good video on why opposition to her being the secretary is not just liberals autistically screeching, as they often do with almost anything Trump does. But he did a good video on showing on why she is not a good fit. She wants to take away public funding for education. She doesn't believe the government should have any say in education. She thinks that private schools are the way to go. Just private schools do whatever they want. There's no regulations of what they can teach or any standards. There's no proficiency tests, so you have no idea what the kids are actually going to learn in these schools. And so each school will operate like a business, and people can shop around for different schools and the good ones that actually teach kids valuable skills, you know, and then prepare them for college or work, will attract the most kids. Word of mouth. It would be like, oh, I heard this business is good, so let me go there. So instead it would be, oh, I heard this school is good, let me move and send my kids there. This is the far right's view of public education. So they don't believe the federal government should have any say in what the schools do. They believe it's left to the states. The states can do whatever they want. The states can go with this, or the states can have their own education system. Here, why are you so weird? Anyway, so, and lots of libertarians have the same view, so I'm going to break with libertarian mold and be against this. You know, I'm actually not a very hard libertarian. Lots of libertarians are anarcho-capitalists. They don't believe the federal government should even exist. They shouldn't believe that it should get, basically, it should be the states doing everything, and businesses controlling everything. Businesses doing everything that the government would do. Those people really annoy me because they have no idea how stupid and naive their views are. It's basically anarchy because the federal government doesn't have any money, can't collect taxes because taxation is theft. You know, the number one lie that these stupid fucking right-wing libertarians say. You know, I hate it when we're going to limb here just to bash these guys because I just want to make a point. I'm so tired of these people saying taxation is theft, yet they use so many fucking services that taxes pay for. So they don't want to pay any taxes because money and capitalism, you know. But they don't want to do all the services that the taxes pay for. They just want other people to pay for it, and then they'll just use all the services for free, and they don't have to pay any taxes. You know, that's so self-centered. Yes, I know taxes are annoying. I don't like paying taxes. I think we should pay less taxes. I think it should close the corporate loophole and make corporations pay the taxes they're already supposed to according to the books anyway, and that will increase revenue that you would lose by cutting taxes for regular, hardworking Americans. You know, so if you say taxation is theft, that's fine. Then that means you don't get to use any service that is tax funded because it's not fair to use all these services but don't want to pay for it. That's self-centered, that's narcissistic, that's not how a society can operate because someone has to pay for these services if you want these services to exist. So the only reason why you can say taxation is theft if you go off the grid in the middle of the woods in Montana and are totally self-sufficient, do not rely on the government or tax-funded services for anything, not a single damn thing, then only then can you have the right to say taxation is theft. So, back to education, because all this is connected with right-wing politics and libertarians in general, because lots of libertarians didn't have a problem with her being the Secretary of Education because they don't believe that the Secretary of Education, the department, should exist at all. So it's like, excuse me, if well, this is stupid department that I don't like. I don't believe it should do anything with education. So if some stupid bitch is in charge of it, I don't care. And that is the wrong way to go about these things. Because for a society to move forward, for a society to have people who know skills that can be depended on to do jobs, for the future generations, the younger generation, to learn valuable skills and contribute to society, you have to have mandates, you have to have standards, you have to have standardized curriculum, so then when a kid goes through 5th grade, for example, you have a general idea of what he knows, because the federal requirements to pass all these tests are the same. So if he got that far, you know, generally, yeah, he knows these things. He might not be good in all of them. You know, this is not a perfect system. It's not 100% every 5th grader knows division, or what do you learn in 5th grade? Shit. I don't know, like American history, like to the present. Not every 5th grader may know that. I don't think I learned, but that's just an example, you know what I mean? So a society cannot function if people have no way to get a good education, to learn skills, to do the jobs that people need, the younger generations and younger people, to eventually learn how to do. The problem with the libertarians' way of thinking with no standardized education, it's all private schools, people can shop around, is that people cannot just move around the country to where the good schools are. That's a problem with a lot of these public education system, is that people cannot move around. They are way too poor to just move, so they have to go to the school that's in their district or that they're assigned to. So that means you have to improve those schools. You can't just trash all the public education schools, just get rid of them all, and say, oh yeah, private companies will educate your kids, or you can homeschool, whatever. Lots of parents can't do that because they don't have the skills to teach their kid through 12th grade. You know, that's really hard. There's a lot of stuff you learn. And or they don't have the time because both parents are working, as is very common in this shitty economy. So in a perfect world, like on the internet, for example, the perfect world, this idea of just, there's no regulations, you can just shop around each website. You know, if you want to buy a heavy metal t-shirt, you can just Google it and it'll pull up on Google Shopping, pull up every single website that has that shirt, and you can shop around and see which is the best one, what is the lowest price, the lowest shipping. Because there's no traveling involved. It's all on the internet. You can go to any shop all around the world on the internet and pay for it, and they can ship it. But with schooling, you can't do that. If you're in a poor district and all the public schools shut down because there's no federal funding anymore, then private schools will just pop up. But what if the good ones are far away? What if the private schools that show up in your place are shitty? Then your kid has no choice. It's just the same situation that if you're stuck with the public school, that sucks. Now you're stuck with the private school, that sucks. There are thousands of private schools, if not tens of thousands, and there's hundreds of thousands of public schools, if not millions of schools. So to say these overarching statements that just a generalization over this entire group of schools by saying public education system sucks. No, that is such a gross overall generalization. There are way too many different public education schools that have varying degrees of success. Yes, there are, I'm not going to deny, there are some public education schools that are just shit. They have shitty teachers in a shitty building that's falling apart. They don't follow the standards. They constantly fail. The kids don't learn anything. You know, so yes, there are bad public schools. There are also good public schools. There are bad private schools. There are also good private schools. You know, it's too varied. You can't put all of these millions of schools into one category and say, yep, they all suck, or yep, they're all good. I mean, because with these overarching statements that are 100%, you know, like all the time, always right, always wrong, with these type of statements, all you have to do is find one example that's not that, and then your statement is false because you said all of them. So all you need is one. So if you say all public education sucks, all I need to find you is one public school that is good, and boom, your statement is inaccurate. That's why you shouldn't say these kinds of things. All private schools are bad. All private schools are good. You know, because it's not correct. I went to public schools. I loved elementary, middle school, and high school. People say that, oh, they don't teach you how to think for yourself, how to develop your own arguments, how to challenge authority, how to think outside the box in public schools. Bullshit. In some, that is the case. Yes, I will agree with you. But I know from my personal experience that my schools helped me develop my own opinion on things, how to challenge narratives, how to uh, be distrustful of big governments, to find out answers for myself so I can articulate the way I am. And why am I making these videos? I am a result of the public school system. Look at me. A little gloating there. So these people who criticize the public schools have either not gone to a public school, or they have gone to a public school and it sucks, and therefore they have the gross generalization that, oh, I went to the public school and it sucks, that means all public schools suck. I know that public schools are good. Some of them are good. And they have the potential to be good because I went to good public schools. Now that we have a model of a good public school, the ones I went to, I know in my head that this is a good example. This is the way public schools should be. The Secretary of Education should not be trying to defund public schools and put lots of money into private Christian schools, as she has done. She should say, okay, these are the good public schools. Let's try to make it so every single public school follows this model. Now, I know it's hypothetically not possible. There's no country on the face of the planet that has every single school is really good. There's always going to be shitty schools and always going to be good schools. What you have to do is try to neutralize that negativity as much as possible by making as little shitty public schools as possible. So you try as hard as you can. You know, she's only going to be in this role for 4, 8 years, whatever. You know, lots of people are not in these roles for a long amount of time. Excuse me. So you try to do as much as you can. So that is the goal, is to take the model of good public schools and to spread across the U.S. as much as possible. So what do you need to do? You need to fire a lot of these shitty public school teachers and administrators who don't know what the fuck they're doing, who just drain taxpayers' money because it's taxpayer funded. You know, get rid of them. Put in good teachers. You have a model for a good teacher. Find other people who want to do that. Stop making people who want to be teachers have to jump through so many hoops and pay all these money for all these tests and all these qualifications. You know, there has to be some standardization so that when a person wants to be a teacher, you have a general sense of what he or she knows based on the criteria, based on the certification that he or she has. But there's need for standardization and regularization to a point, and then it becomes too burdensome. It becomes too much of a burden on the person trying to become a teacher. It costs way too much money. It takes too much time. You know, this person has to make a living while he's doing all this, and it's like, you wonder why there's such a shortage of good teachers, because so many good people try to be a teacher, and they have to go through all of this government red tape, all this bullshit, all these hoops, all these tests, all this money, you know, hundreds and hundreds of hours with internships. You know, my sister's trying to be a teacher, and all the shit she has to go through is just fucking ridiculous. It's just like, she's going to teach elementary school. Why do you need to do all of this fucking shit to be a good elementary school teacher? You don't need all that. You just need a little bit of training to know how to teach. It is a skill. Not a lot of people can do it. And it's got to do with the personality and it's got to do with the personality and work ethic. A good teacher doesn't have to have all this expensive equipment and all of this training and all of this high-tech stuff in the classrooms. He or she just needs to know how to teach and wants to teach these kids. You know, so I hate it when they're like, oh, these public schools suck because they don't have a lot of funding. You don't need a lot of funding to teach. Yeah, you need money for textbooks, you know, and paper and pens. I'll give you that. But do you need a smart board in every single classroom? No. Do you need iPads in every single classroom? No. In every single school? No. It's just, so this issue is really complicated. I went through a lot in this video. So we'll try to summarize it up here. The government has an interest, if it wants to see its country live, to prosper, to exist through the generations. It has an interest, if it wants to do that, which I'm assuming the government wants to do that, then it has an interest to make sure that education is standardized to a point. Because if the right-wingers and the libertarians had their way, this is how their system wouldn't work. It is rife for corruption because teachers don't have to have any standards. They're not held to any standards. They can teach whatever they want. They can bullshit whatever they want. They can just not give a flying fuck about their job, and no one can do anything because they're a private company. It's just like a Walmart, for example. If the Walmart next to you, the employees suck, the managers suck, no one can speak English, no one just gives a shit about the store, then you're fucked. That you can't go to that store because it's not a good store. And that's no problem because you can go to another store. There's lots of stores nearby. But with schools, there's only a certain amount of schools, a certain amount of area, and people can't move. Now, critics will say, well, public schools, some of the public school systems, the public school system is the same way there. There's lots of teachers who can't teach. They fail the standards that they're supposed to teach, and they don't give a fuck, and they're not fired. You know, it's so hard to fire these government workers. And it's like, yes, I agree, there are problems with the public education system in this country. I'm trying to fix it. See, we have two different approaches to this problem. I look at a problem and say, let's improve it because I know how to do it, because these schools I went to, they did really good, so let's try to make it so every other school system does that. And people like Betsy DeVos come in and look at it and say, oh, this thing is beyond repair. The system sucks, public schools suck. Let's just get rid of it all and do private school systems all the way around. I know that a lot of private schools are really, really good. I also know a lot of private schools that really suck because teachers don't have to have any standardization, certifications, pass all the exams to become a teacher. So these people come in here, they have no idea what they're doing. The kids come in here, they don't learn anything. It's ripe for corruption. They're not held to any standards because they're a private company. The government can't tell them to do much of anything. Notice whenever I describe public schools and private schools, I don't say all private schools do this, all public schools do that. Some do all the things I'm talking about. So in conclusion, let's try to wrap this up. I know I already said that before and then I got off on a tangent, but there's just so many things you have to go through when talking about this. And there's so many different variables and so many different levels, degrees of, good schools, bad schools, that I have to go through all these things in order for an argument to complete, because people will point out and say, oh, he said all private schools are bad. No, I didn't. I have to explain that. He said all public schools are good. No, I didn't. Let's go through this. It's so hard. I got to cover all my bases to make sure this argument is what I want it to be, because I don't want to say that. As I said, I don't want to say that all private schools are bad, all private schools are good, etc. So in conclusion, that is why I think Betsy DeVos is a bad pick for the Secretary of Education, because she's going to approach education the wrong way. She has a track record of donating to radical Christian private schools who there's a reason why religion and education should be separate, and she doesn't think that way. And the kids of this country should not be taught that the earth is flat and there's no such thing as evolution. And the earth is only 4,500 years old, whatever stupid things they come up with. Because I don't want those people to be doctors or lawyers like Ben Carson, one of the most brilliant neurosurgeons ever to live. Outside of neurosurgery, he's a complete fucking retard. He has no idea what he's talking about. So I don't want lots of Ben Carsons running around. The future education, the future generation to be like that. There needs to be some standardization, but there's a balance. You can't have too much. There needs to be some certifications for teachers to teach. But again, not too much. Moderation. That is the key to this policy. You can't have no certification, and anyone who just wants to teach can come up and teach. Any private school that wants to open can do that. You can't have so much red tape and way too many expensive tests that good people who want to be teachers drop out of the program and quit being teachers and go to something else that's easier. And that's why you have a shortage of good teachers in this country, and that the public school system takes up so much money, goes so much red tape, paying all these administrators who can't do their job and suck and should be fired, and better people should be put in there. Okay, I think that wrapped it up. That was a rambling one. Gonna have to edit it, but see where it goes.